Administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Welcome to Legally Speaking. My name is Anthony Ebuk. The program is on Planet Radio 101.1 FM with you and on Spectrum TV, Star Times and Free to Air. Okay, today's edition, first we apologize for starting a bit late on the day. On this edition, we'll be looking at the state of the judiciary in Nigeria, especially as it regards to the judicial officers, their security and their welfare. We'll also look at, touch a bit on the forthcoming officer election tomorrow in a couple of states, Kogi, Imo State. I have with me in the studio Hannah Essien. Hannah, you're welcome to the program. All right, so without much ado, let's flip on. A judge recently in Gombe was brutalized, and the pictures were all over the place. And the story is that he went for site visit, inspection of the locus.
Yeah, inspection of a land that's being contested.
In court, and he was manhandled by the litigants and the villagers probably. And the pictures we saw was such an alarming picture. It's scary, right? It's quite scary that such could happen to a judge. Now, you have read that story. That's not the first thing, the first time we have seen such issues. That's not the first time we are going to complain about the security of judges, their welfare, their well-being. So let's have your thoughts on it, Hannah.
Well, it's unfortunate that people think they even conceive going to beat up a judge that is on duty, checking the land under dispute. When I heard it, I felt the level of lawlessness, because now the NBA chairman has said that they are going to work with security agents to make sure the perpetrators of these acts have been brought to book. Yes, we've heard about this one, but I know that there have been cases. I heard a district court judge mention to me some time ago how I think a magistrate was a magistrate on a bike when he was assaulted by a person he had ruled against. So it's a common thing. Now, instructions have been given to the judges that judges have been advised to always go to, when they go for inspection like that, they should go with security agents to ensure, to guard against such an occurrence. Now, I'm looking at what, in this particular instance, they recorded that the people came with weapons. It means they came ready, because the level of, the way that man was beaten up, his face, I saw the picture, totally swollen up, eyes, it was fully planned. They waited for him with weapons, and I'm wondering, if he went with a single police officer, assuming he had gone with a police officer, would that police officer have been able to prevent what happened? Or are they now supposed to go with a truckload of security agents to prevent this kind of thing from happening? Now, if they are supposed to go with at least a security officer, do we have enough to go around for all the magistrates, all the district courts chairmen? Is provision made for that? Because if people can think this up, then it means that it's risky for them to just be going for inspection, believing that they're dealing with sane people. So if this is something that can happen, it happens to a magistrate according to what the district court chairman told me on a bike. How are judges supposed to move around? Are they supposed to be, because when she told me that, she said it's unsafe for them not to have vehicles it's unsafe for them to travel on public transport, to sit on a bike like that. That means it's actually true that these people run a risk. Their lives are endangered, say they are under threat. So there has to be a level of provision of some level of security for them. And I am thinking, is government considering this for only judges? Because there are so many of them. The district court judges deal with villagers who may not even think. Their thinking is they think the jungle justice kind of thinking. They are not. So it's even those ones that need to be protected more. So this kind of thing should really make us, because if you say there's to be careful, this guy went to locals, and it wasn't just him. I think the people who accompanied him, they were all beaten up. So these people, they have to go on inspection. And we have seen that not everybody is reasonable, and they can't be allowed to be exposed to such risk just because they are doing their job. So I don't know what government is going to do about providing security for these people who are working for them.
I saw this, the photographs, and I was a bit worried. What's really going on? Okay? What's going on here? Nigeria has degenerated to this point. You know, back in the days, every judge was entitled to an official car, personal aid, you know, and courtroom orderly. The courtroom orderly sits behind the court. He's a police officer, and the personal aid is also a police officer that sits beside the judge in court, at least with a reasonable distance, in case there's an attack on the judge. It means from the beginning, it was conceived that judges could be attacked.
Yes.
From inception of the profession, you know that you are a security risk.
Okay, so are you now saying that such provision is no longer made for judges? Okay. Let's talk about judges.
Okay.
Let's not
with
even
judges, yes, with judges the provisions are made. But the judges complain with respect to vehicles. Some of them, their vehicles, I know one of the judges complained that he was stranded along the road on his way to court. His vehicle broke down because he wasn't given top-notch spec. And also, I'm not sure they have been given money to maintain the vehicles. So a lot of what they do is from their out-of-pocket expenses. Okay, that's just judges. What happens to the magistrate? The magistrate had similar provisions at the beginning. But now I think they just have courtroom orderlies. I don't think they have personal orderlies that follow them wherever they're going to, okay? So you find that this has been an erosion of standards. The standards were quite high at the beginning. Now, that's the magistrates. Let's go down to the district courts.
And there are many of them. There are many district courts.
We don't even have
provision for vehicles for them.
No, not even vehicles. Vehicles are heavy lifting. Let's talk about just having courtroom orderly. A policeman posted to man the court at the district court. It's non-existent. How do we do that? Now, in saner crimes, we have what is called the special marshals. That's the sheriffs of court. The sheriffs of court are supposed to be like the bailiffs.
Yes.
They provide both security. In fact, they manage the security system in the church. When there is an arrest, the bailiff comes, a bailiff that is called the sheriff, right? He comes to serve you processes. He comes to arrest you if you are in contempt of court. They hardly have any relationship, or they only handshake at certain points with the civil police force, right? Because they operate under the order of the chief judge of the state. But in Akwa Ibom or Nigeria, as it is, the bailiffs are hardly enough to even serve processes, about 3 or 4 per court. That's the court, like the magistrate courts. A go of courts would have just about 2, 3, 5 bailiffs.
Was the bailiff a law enforcement agent?
No, it's a staff, and a very low ranking staff at that. But if you buy uniforms for them and make them appear in their own uniform, when you see them, you know that these are law enforcement agents of the court. And that's, if you are questioning law enforcement agents, as the government is paying them, it's the court system that pays them. The court system pays them as staff of the court and assigns roles to them.
Okay, maybe the word I wanted and I should have used was, are they security agents?
No. Bailiffs today are known more of as process delivery postmen.
So they are courier
agents, basically. But their duty was supposed to go beyond that. Okay, apart from that too, they come to fair properties.
Yes.
When judgment is being enforced.
And they are supposed to be accompanied by a member of the police force.
Now the handshake, that's why I say there's a handshake between them and the police force. When it comes to enforcement of laws, they now go with the police force. But see, we also have a lot of cases against the police.
Okay.
So how do you get the bailiff to enforce against the police? Yes. So when you have a judgment that borders on policemen, and you are trying to enforce that judgment, and it's the police that will enforce it, how does that work? So in the end, you are limited
when you are talking about enforcing judgments against police, is it not normally against a member of staff, a staff of the police, not against the
largely it's against the organization, because they have agents, you know. They are the principal of these policemen, so most of the cases, they are agents of the disclosed principal. So if you want to fight a police vehicle, for instance, now, you can imagine the civil position. They are not armed, the policemen are armed, and there is that robust.
So has it happened that if a police vehicle, has it happened before that a police vehicle needed to be fight? That's the word you use, and the police resisted?
Of course they will resist. That's why you notice.
No, don't say of course you
resist.
Course. Has it happened before?
No.
Because you know,
okay.
You're painting it to
let me make you
against.
Let me make you understand one. I had a judgment to enforce against the bank. All right, and the bailiffs got the services of some policemen who were officially assigned to them to go for the enforcement of that judgment. When they got to the bank also has their own internal police who stood up to query why they've come to lock the bank. And the court order was shown to them. It was a garnishing order, that absolute, against the government's account. So immediately, the bank called the Commissioner for Finance, who sent a signal to the Commissioner of Police and said, withdraw those men immediately. So the bailiffs were arrested, and the policemen that came with them were arrested on the presumed fraudulent obtaining of enforcement of fraudulent court order. They knew it wasn't a fraudulent order of court, but because they just target, you have fake bailiffs coming to enforce, and the bailiffs were so scared.
So how did it end?
At the end of the day, they made the right statements, then they released them to go, to show us, just to paint a picture that we've done our work.
So
They will not go back. They didn't go back for that enforcement after that. All right?
So what happened to the court order?
Well, at that point, the court order was stayed by force.
And
Though eventually the case went our way, we were able to enforce the order, but it wasn't by way of fair. It wasn't also by way of sealing up the bank. We had to sit down to discuss a court order. We don't discuss court orders.
So what did the court do about that?
Now, who has
what?
affront?
Disregard.
Yes, and contempt.
Order. Yes.
You see, somebody has to bring the contempt proceedings.
Okay.
You file a contempt proceeding and your client tells you withdraw it, we are at the point of settlement. Let them pay me my money.
Okay.
I'm more interested in my money. Let's forget about what happened. So that's how these issues can play out wrongly or rightly. So when you look at this side by side with what has happened, you are compelled to want to draw in the, how do I put it? You're compelled to want to draw in the welfare of judicial officers and focus it. Yesterday I was in court, and the court had made an order against the Inspector General of Police that a particular person be released from their custody. As we speak, that person wasn't released from custody. What is the court supposed to do? If it were against you and I, the court, the policeman will come to arrest you, right? Because you are not a law enforcement agent.
Yes.
And even some law enforcement officers, they will come against you, especially if you are not wearing their blue uniform. They can arrest army officers. Of course, you heard clashes between army and policemen severally, all right? But if it is against their own kind, they would rarely want to act.
So are you saying that when it's against the law enforcement agent like that, it's always by settlement?
Well, not exactly, okay? If you see judgments that come against law enforcement officers, those judgments are usually monetary judgments.
Okay.
And one of the easiest way to enforce a monetary judgment would be to go against the bank. Now, where the bank fails to, the bank will not even require a check from them. As long as it's a court order, they transfer the money to you. They raise a manager's draft debit your account. So when you come to ask questions, they say they're obeying a court order. But the other aspect, which usually is faster, would be to lock up the bank, and they will be compelled from their head office to issue that draft where it wasn't issued.
So we have moved a long way from the security of
not necessarily security. I think
how law enforcement agents, when court orders come against them, they do not obey.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting.
Generally, what I try to,
Okay. Yeah. So so that was what we. And I also wanted to ask, when you said that the bailiff is the one that I am imagining a bailiff going. I had said it earlier. This particular scenario where that man was so brutalized, his face is not funny to look at. I think it happened on 5th November. I think it's just.
It's a recent
It's very
transaction.
recent. It's a very recent transaction. So I'm trying to imagine. They said these people came with weapons, and you were there with a bailiff. Doesn't have a single firearm. It's just wearing uniform. I'm pretty
He's
sure
not even
that
wearing uniform.
I'm pretty sure that bailiff would have been beaten along with the judge.
Of course, it would be.
So,
No, but usually I don't think bailiffs are not expected to have gone with them.
Okay.
It will be the court, the registrar of courts, the two parties, their lawyers, right?
I know, and we
So-
are now talking
so
about
bailiffs might not be
security.
part
You
of-
said bailiffs are security.
Bailiff ought to be acting as their security. But the rules assigned to them these days rarely include that of security.
So the long and short of everything is that security has to be considered as an
Beyond the
essential
security.
part of
Okay,
this
year alone, we've had two members of the bench Court of Appeal, collapse and died in the office. All right?
Yes.
Now, what caused this collapse? In the office. Overwork. There's so much pressure on judges to write judgments, rulings, and also seats. The pressure is just overwhelming. Okay, look at what happened at the beginning of this year, post the 25th of March general election. May, right? Not 25th of March general election. Judges were pulled out. For those of you who want to join the conversation, the numbers to call will be 090-222-31011. I repeat that number, 090-222-31011. The alternative number to call will be 070-454-17707. I repeat that alternative number, 070-454-17707. All right, so like I said, most of the judges' long rights post March 25th presidential general election, they were all harvested. At least 5 per state. They harvested and camped in various states to run election petitions. And they had a timeline of 180 days. Now, all these judges worked back to back. Some still had to come back to their jurisdiction to sit on emergency matters, like custody matters. The custodial matters are people's rights of freedom need to be attended to as urgently as possible. Okay? Now, they have come back, and there is a truckload of case that is waiting for them to dispose of, which had been stayed for that 6-month period that they were out. They will come back and continue to work assiduously, writing judgment. Meanwhile, they have targets. They have to deliver a certain number of judgments per quarter. If you don't, you are queried by the agency. So this piles so much pressure on them that a lot of them get to lose their life, get to lose their health, right?
Well, you're saying a lot of them. I don't think, because if it was a lot of them, they would have died in their numbers. People have different constitutions. People have different constitutions.
They would have died in their numbers.
Yes, if it was, if we were to attribute the...
that's what I'm talking about. The health, do you know the health conditions of most of the judges?
Yeah. So is it the work that gave them the health conditions?
Yes.
They are not.
No.
They are not fit.
No.
They are not fit.
I know a judge that stands. He now stands with his podium to be taking cases.
Why?
Because of the sedentary work style that he has.
Yeah, but
so
other judges sit through. If all of them, we noticed that all judges were standing, we could now say this sitting affects all judges. So that particular judge is not.
I agree with you that the judge is trying to be smart about his health.
That particular judge
Others
is not
are
very
smart about their health. Okay, but generally speaking, the welfare of judges needs to be reworked.
Welfare in what sense?
When you talk about welfare, there's a working condition. I'm in an environment where the ACs don't work. I'm in an environment where there is no light. In the magistrate or district courts, right? In the district courts of, like we talked about this Ekiti State Chief Judge, where the building collapsed.
A collapse of a building is different from saying that.
It's part of the work condition. When did you hear of a collapse of the government house? That's his own government house.
We all know that it's only government houses that are in tip-top condition. a lot of other places are, yes,
You see,
it's
you see,
fine.
that's a mistake you're making.
We talk
You
about
use the word, you use the word, you use the word government.
Talk about schools.
Hold on,
Yes,
sir.
I'm a
Hold
teacher.
on,
Let me bring in
hold
schools
on, let's
here.
see, let's see.
We know the state of schools.
Let's look at the parallels, okay? When you say government house, so the High Court is not government. See, that's, even you make that mistake. There are 3 tiers of government.
I know.
Hold on, let's put it out first.
I know.
There are 3 tiers of government: the legislative government, the executive government, and the judicial government. But people tend to imagine that government is the executive government alone. The others are their children. If the chief judge's chambers could collapse,
that's what
you
I'm
can
saying.
imagine the quality of work that was done on it.
I'm not supporting it. I mean, it's a terrible thing to hear that that man sat in his chambers and the wall collapsed on him since July. This visit that we are seeing the NBA chairman visiting in London, president visiting is in this month. The incident happened in July. That a man had to be pulled out from under
The
rubble. You went to work and your office collapsed. It just goes to show how we run things. We have talked about their security. Now, building is collapsing on, an office building is collapsing. Like you rightly said, where the governor stays will not get to a place, a state where it will collapse. It will be, in fact, some governors will be like, the moment they come in, they renovate the government house, the house that they're supposed to live in, that the previous governor just left. So it's all about executive taking care of, like you already said, government is executive. Everybody looks at that they want to call the shots. We were talking about judicial, what?
Arm of government.
No, that autonomy we're fighting
autonomy.
for some. Now, if that's to be realized, would it now mean that it's the judiciary that's responsible for the security, the courts, keeping the courts in tip-top condition? Right now, who's responsible for it?
Okay, now, right now is the executive arm of government through the states, the federal police force, right? And the executive arm of government that awards contracts, approves contracts, right?
Yes.
Whereas the judicial arm might be the ones awarding the approval and the funding comes from the executive arm.
So if there was to be judicial autonomy,
If there was a judicial autonomy,
it would be removed completely from the...
Yes, so you just apply to the national, the NJC, okay, this is the budget we have, and the federal government pays that budget to them as it relates to you, and you draw your funds directly from there, and you do what you ought to do without having an interference from your local authority. So you can now decide cases based on their merit. Who would tell, I will not pay that person, please don't give him, don't enter judgments, for him. I will thought between telling Your Excellency this case is meritorious. You don't need to explain to him. Okay? So you got judgments, you try to enforce the judgment, and somebody is trying to interfere. I have had situations where even judges will come to court and say, no matter whose ox is God, I'm going to enter judgment, order absolute on this. If you don't enforce it, that is your own bit. I have done my work. You understand? Why did the judge say that? Because he's received calls from quarters he probably didn't expect to have calls from. And the judge says, it's a judgment. I'm not sitting as a judge. I'm sitting to affirm the enforcement of that judgment. Are you telling me not to enforce that judgment?
Okay, so away from that, now we're talking about infrastructure.
Okay.
The chief judge's chambers collapsed on him. Which state was that? Is it? Okay, Ekiti, yeah, collapsed on him. So that's the chief judge. Who's the chief judge? The highest judge in the state, the number one judge in the state. His chambers was in such a dilapidated condition
that it could collapse.
It could collapse and harm him, that he's been out of work for 4 months now, because that was since
Yes.
July. So if that is the Chief Judge's chambers that's in that state, I am trying to imagine all these other courts spread all over. Well, now we have seen here, it's very wrong for infrastructure to be allowed to decay, which is something we have seen over and over again. We see it happen. Offices, people in offices complain. There is no provision for running of fuel and buying fuel to run generators to get things done in offices. It's everywhere. We don't know how we're going to get out of this. But I'm looking at that overwork of a thing. You're saying that judges are overworked and that's what's causing them to collapse. Meanwhile, they have asked for an increase in their age to retire. If they felt that their work was too much, they wouldn't have. I mean, you're getting older and you would have wanted to go home if you found the work to be 80.
Truthfully speaking, I have met with a couple of judges who are not very excited about that increase in age brackets. I know there are some intrigues, like you have to work for about 10 years before you're entitled to a retirement pension, okay, that is at the level of your last salary for life.
Okay.
Some judges don't get to that age. So those ones might want that increase so they can cross.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
It's the saddest thing to come back home and you don't have any source of income. You can't go back to practice. You are just there at the mercy of the wind or some small stipends, okay? So while some might want that, I don't think it's because they enjoy the work. See, when a judge tells you I have 500 matters on my docket, 500 matters, you spread it into 26 days of a month, and there will be public holidays, and there will be strikes. You can understand when a judge sits on over 20 matters a day.
Okay, so what's your impression, that we don't have enough judges?
Of course, we don't have enough judges.
Because you mentioned the election tribunal, it comes only once every 4 years. Okay. It only comes during election period, and
a lot of courts don't recover from that for 4 years. Do you know why? By that once every 4 years, that judge comes back. That judge is already 5 years at that location and is due to be moved. The moment he's transferred from that court, a lot of those matters start afresh with a new judge. So you see somebody appear in court and say, my lord, this matter has been before your 5 previous learned brothers. Some could die in the situation, some will retire, and those matters keep restarting.
So is it all judges that are recruited into tribunals?
No, like I said, 5 per state.
5 per state.
How many do you have? And when you take one out of Ikorabasi, who covers Ikorabasi for that period? You take one out of Eket. So all the matters within that court is suspended.
So judges do not cover for their
they try
when
I think the present chief judge of Akwa will say tried to say, okay, let's have a covering duty. But that covering duty will be strictly or mostly matters of urgent importance. Either the very old matters, no, necessarily not the very old matters, because you cannot do matters that have already been heard by that judge. But you can take up motions that can terminate, whose lifespan is not beyond.
Okay, so you're saying that the covering by another judge is a recent thing. It wasn't done before.
It wasn't done before.
So at least steps are being taken to solve that problem, because the election tribunal, like I said, is once every 4 years. So it shouldn't be something that we refer to that it is.
And I have told you that even if it's once every 4 years.
I know.
After that, once every 4 years. Don't forget, in
Because
between the
I was of the impression that it's all judges that are moved on, but it's not all
No,
judges.
it's not
So
all
all
judges.
other judges can cover for them, like you said, urgent matters, and then they come in.
I've tried to explain that part. When you say other judges can cover for them, see, the truth is this: when a judge sits on a matter, the law says you are the only person that can sit on that matter from beginning to the end.
Yes.
So nobody can cover for you on that matter.
How long are they away
You
on
can't,
this
6
tribunal?
months, then they say vacation.
When they
Legal
go,
vacation.
when they go on, you said they do come back because they don't sit
I say,
throughout.
yeah, I say some
Let's
of them.
get a clear
Yeah,
picture
some
of
of
what
them
happens.
could take maybe 1 week after every 4 or 5 weeks, just coming to touch matters that they feel are very urgent. If they had judgments they had written, they come to read it. You know, just to be in touch, because there is also the constitutional provision that judgments cannot stay for longer than 90 days. The moment you adjourn a matter for judgment, you must deliver it within the 90 days. All right? Rulings, the same thing. So if they had matters that were pending for judgment and ruling, they come in to do that. If they have urgent matters that might necessarily be prejudicial to one party, they can come in to make some orders to preserve the race. Okay? So those are the issues that come
So
up.
that doesn't sound like
Okay,
something that
let's-
will
let's-
kill a judge, no?
Let's look at before we start wrapping up. Let's look at these urgent current issues. Tomorrow there'll be elections in some states of the federation. Kogi State is one of them. Imo State is another. And is it Bayelsa? Bayelsa is the third state. How are we prepared for it? A lot of people think election is well, we have done it before. But I'm wondering, what was the scorecard of the just concluded general election? People are still, the flames are still in their ember form.
The embers are still glowing.
Yes, in the last general election. What lessons have people learned?
Is it people? The fingers are pointed at the electoral body.
Whose finger?
INEC.
Whose finger?
Is them that people are accusing?
No,
of,
I hardly think any sane person would want to point fingers at INEC.
Okay, so the insane ones.
Oh, did I say insane?
Yeah, you say sane persons will point. So what is making how wrong are the insane ones in pointing fingers at INEC?
Let's look at this. There has been an election conducted.
Yes.
A lot of people that are in court today, House of Assembly, governorship election, I don't think any of them is pointing fingers at INEC.
Okay.
A lot of them are either saying there was thuggery by the other party. That party, the candidate did not qualify. INEC is having a field day. I've not heard much criticism about them.
Okay.
The only way fingers pointed at them was that at the presidential election,
Yes.
they did not upload the result. I don't know if anybody has complained that results were not uploaded at the governorship election, or the results, or there were manipulations by INEC with respect to other offices. Not many people have complained, so I think I could give them a high score there, right?
And so if you're talking about thuggery will always be there now.
People
are planning to.
You see, why would they be thuggery?
There are people that are planning to muscle their candidates into.
Why
into
would they still be
office
thuggery?
will still be there.
See, INEC has made some very good innovations into the electoral system in Nigeria. One of them is the beavers, right? If you look at the beavers, the way it's designed to ensure that nobody can vote without being identified properly. So you walk in there, and then that machine identifies you as a voter that is eligible to vote in that polling unit. If not, you walk away without a vote. Now, if ballot papers are falsified, and like it used to happen then, back in the days, they carry ballot papers and use coconut, palm kernel, palm kernel to palm prints, to kernel prints ballot papers, and it will look like fingerprints, right? You don't have machine eyes. You have to just admit that, okay, these are thumb-printed ballot papers. They make it match with the results. Now with the beavers can only identify the people that are eligible to vote and how many of them turned up, right? So how do you now panel print results sheets and stuff them? So it's not stuffed. The way it has played out, it's played out like almost what you would say the option A for.
Okay, like I can't remember the names of the people involved. There was this, he said his votes had been wrongly cancelled. I think we mentioned it last week. He said people were complaining that he was dead, and he now became first.
They must say, hope who's on the man.
That he said his votes had been, who were the people who had not counted his votes, that he now said.
Well, exactly what I'm saying. We talked about this here. He wasn't in the general election. He was in the same outside election as we are having now.
I know.
Off-season election. Yes. Now.
So what you're saying is that
they can be compromises. We are not doubting that. Some persons could use money to compromise the system and say, please, whatever you do, cancel this area. I'm not sure I'll have a very rich harvest from there. So but the areas where I will have a rich harvest, allow things to work there and ensure that things don't work where I will not have a rich harvest. That's usually one of the strategies that these crooked politicians would want to adopt, okay? So that's where policemen come into play, to ensure that there's a peaceful transition of votes from people to the ballot paper and from the ballot paper to the results sheet. So when you see policemen around and they are turning the guns they have to protect fraudulent people, to frustrate the election.
A situation where people are not allowed to vote.
That's why I'm saying it's not the INEC. What happens with INEC? In the INEC's case, I think sometimes you see that they come in late. INEC can come in late for their election materials. And when they come in late with the election materials, now people insist. I remember that I saw the countings late into the night. That's because the people would have called the office to say, this is when your men have brought in the election materials. So our time begins to run now, okay, for the avoidance of doubt. Because where that is not done, it means a whole lot of people will be disenfranchised. And I'm not sure that is what the government of the day will want to see.
Wow. Time is fast spent.
Yeah, time is fast spent. So let's see. Let's have your last words with respect to especially the judicial welfare of judicial officers.
No, it really has to be looked into. Somebody cannot work and be exposed to such a risk as that man was, what that man went through just because he was doing his work. Their employers should.
Who are the employers in this case?
Who are the employers of judges?
Exactly.
Is it not government? Yeah, you say judges are government, so explain to me.
Well, yes, the employers who hired them, which is the judicial arm of government, should also be on top of issues.
Yeah, something really.
Yes, because if you are spending money on contracts, you should also spend money to ensure that your staff are properly covered.
And like I said from the beginning, it doesn't have to be only judges.
All right, that's about the size of what we have for you on Legally Speaking today. I also concur with my friend Hannah that the judges, the magistrates, the courts, every judicial officer, from the lowest rank to the topmost rank, need to be covered. They need security, social security, they need real security. They also need to have access to every other welfare package, including even fuel, not just their vehicle, in their courtrooms, because there are no lights in so many courtrooms. The chairs are dilapidated, and it's just an unsafe working environment. So we'll be calling on governments in this case, the judicial arm, to look into the system and rework it. Until same time next week, let's hope everything you do from now till then will be legal.
Nigerian police force, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
For premium broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.